Okay, let's see if we can figure out why we're not getting any data here. Again, when I was first learning this, frustrating, like why is this not working the way I want it to work? But it all has to do with security, like I say. We don't want any, port accessing any port kind of a thing. We want to be secure and be predictable and know what's coming and say, yes, this request is okay. So in order to do that, we want to make these servers predictable so that we can tell each other about it. Right now, they're just coming up with some random number, 5173. So we're going to change that, and this one's 7051. We want to change this so it's predictable so we can say, yes, any requests from this particular port are okay. And so what I'm going to do is close out of both of these windows. We'll stop the back end from running. We'll stop the front end from running. And what I want to do is go into Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, there's this properties folder that we haven't done anything with yet. And this is the launch settings. So I'm going to go into launchsettings.json. In the launch settings, this is basically setting up all these different ways of launching. So you can see there's different entries for HTTP and HTTPS and IIS Express. And so we can go in here and change the port numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this HTTP entry, which I think goes to there, under Profiles. So we want to be in the Profiles section. And then I'm going to modify this HTTPS to say backend. So this is just a name I'm giving this particular profile. And then in here, we can leave all that stuff as defaults. But under application URL, I want to make these ports predictable. So if I'm running on HTTPS, I want to have this be 5000. And you can pick whatever number you want here. You're hard coding it to tell it it's always going to be this number. So if you don't like these, you can use something different. But to make it kind of predictable for me, I'm going to say 5000 for HTTPS, 4000 for HTTP, and I'll save that. And so what that means is, if we go over to our Visual Studio Code in the foodlist.tsx file, which we've got all sorts of red suddenly. What happened? I just need to save. Then if I'm accessing HTTPS, right, in Visual Studio Code, that means it will be localhost 5000 and then the name of the API, which is Marriott Food. And so this will become a 5000 is the server I'm pulling from. Or if I want to use non-secure, right, HTTP, then it would be localhost 4000 without the S on the end. All right, I'm going to use the secure one and 5000. But if that's giving you trouble, then try the just regular HTTP and see if that'll work for you. All right, so I've changed the server there, but on the .NET side, I need to know where the request is going to come from. And so for this, we go into the veet.config.ts file in React. And in here, in the entries for after plugin, actually, I am going to put an entry for server. And the server in this case, I will say, is going to be port 3000. All right, I'll save that. So I'm indicating the port for that the request is coming from is going to be 3000, so that now on .NET side I can say, hey, by the way, you're going to get a request from 3000, and that's okay. So on back to the .NET side, now that I've set up the port here as 3000, you'll see it if I run this now. So npm run dev, then it's going to pull up port 3000. And notice already we're seeing the at least structure there without the data. Okay, so which tells me something must have been wrong in the address I put in, because that should have been showing up. The table information should have been showing up before, I think. But now it's getting no data. How do we have it get data? So back to the .NET side. Again, I got way too many windows open. It's driving me nuts. We go to the program CS, And we're going to make an entry here that tells it it's okay to use that particular, to get requests from that particular request, right? The particular port. And so in here, above HTTPS redirection, which by the way, if you're not using HTTPS, take that line out. But if you are using HTTPS, let's leave it in. So above this, we're going to say app dot something called use CORS. And I can't remember what that stands for. It's middleware, like it says here, to your web application to allow cross-domain requests. And so in here, I'm going to say, whatever we want to say, x lambda x dot with origin. So we're okay with requests coming from origins. And it put a lot more extensions on there than I typically would, but this is what we were looking for. So I'm okay with requests from HTTP localhost 3000. All right. Let's save this. Let's get our server running to test this out. And it's almost going to work. All right, so we've got our server up and running now. And now I'll go to the front end and I can run my npm run dev. And I can pull up the window. And when I do, I get data. Isn't that cool? Doesn't that feel good? So cool. But the problem is the server, if you see what's going on here, it's tough to tell. It's just getting hammered over and over again with requests, like boom, 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 boom. It's going and grabbing the data. The server is getting hammered with a constant request to see if there's new data, new data, new data, and it's grabbing this so it can update React. All right, so we got to fix that one last thing, which we do by using something called use effect. And we really should have done this from the beginning, but I wanted you to see here as this is running. I wish I could make this. I mean, we've got so many requests coming in, right? And so this is important to put this use request in. So I'm going to stop that server from running so it doesn't just keep getting hammered with requests. And then in our foodlist.tsx file, we're going to wrap this little functionality that we've got in something called use effect. So I'm going to say use effect, like use state, but this one's called use effect, that this is only going to allows us, it's going to allow us to fetch information after the component has rendered, and we don't have to wait for the data, and then it's going to look for changes before it makes any request. And so this makes it flow a lot better. So we say use effect, and it won't recognize that at first. We need to import that as well. Oh, it actually popped it in. Okay. So we put the Lambda function in again, and then in braces, we're going to go grab this whole functionality and bring that up into the use effect. Okay. So that's in there now. And then the second part of this is in the use effect. I'm going to bring my fetch food and bring that up into this method. Save. So it is liking that. And then I'm going to say if by chance there's nothing there, so after this brace, then just bring in an empty array. So that's the other option. So this is go try this, see if there's data there, but if there's not, just pass in an empty array. Okay, let's see if we can run this quick. So I'll run the back end again. Get that up and running. Okay, now to the front end. I'll go, I never stopped it from running. So let's go click on this to follow the link. And sure enough, we get our data. But if I go look at the server now, well, that's anticlimactic. What happened? Save. Did I save that file? Oh man, we're out of time. Save. It was saved, right? Let me stop the server from running. Okay, and then come back in here, run back end again. We're not going to have time. There were a few closing thoughts I wanted to make anyway, so let's wrap up in the last little video. Spencer, out.